I don't give a
His name
One
up
thing
first.
that you don't get, you're going to apologize for what you did, and if you don't want to, then this conversation's over. No, you did not.
See you, John Fugazi.
Yep, Fugazi.
Yeah.
Just remember, you're the poster child for mortgage fraud.
Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. It's your girl, the Brooke Ashley, and today we are here to discuss The Real Housewives of New Jersey, Season 14, Episode 6. And before we get into it, let me start off by saying that this episode had me thoroughly entertained. Dolores, I'm gonna tell you just like this, you are wasting your own time. Paulie is playing right in your face, and that lunch date should have been the last date you guys ever had. I think that it makes no sense that Paulie feels like he has the right to be angry because Dolores wants answers. But the end of this episode really had me blown because that whole sit down with Teresa, Louie, and the Fudas, that went all the way left. And while I love the Fudas, I'm here for them being activated and not backing down. It is very clear that they are trying to secure their spot for season 15. Like, let's just call a spade a spade. But a quick side note, why was Louis so quiet? He has all this mouth any other time, but I thought it was very interesting that at that sit down, he didn't say a word. At one point, I forgot he was there. But with all that being said, let's just jump right on into it because you guys already know that we don't have a minute to spare. And one more thing, I just wanted to say thank you to everybody. Thank y'all for showing me so much love. I just announced a few days ago that I am now on Apple and Spotify podcasts. So it's a major blessing. God is good. I'm beyond grateful. And shout out to all my subscribers who are listening to the Brooke Ashley on Apple or Spotify. So now there are more ways to listen and have a cute key and a cute time with the doll. But yes, honey, we are moving on up over here. It feels good. I appreciate your support, your love, your kind words. It does not go unnoticed, y'all. I am truly just basking in the moment. But be prepared and stay tuned for some more content on the podcast. And I just can't wait to see where the journey continues to take me. But once again, thank y'all so much. I truly appreciate y'all. I love y'all. And you guys make what I do so much fun. Now, we open up this episode with a short scene with Melissa and Joe at home. Now, not too much happened. They were on the phone with Antonia, seeing how she's liking college so far. And then they start talking amongst themselves about what went down at Danielle's bougie brunch. Of course, she's giving him the rundown about what happened between Danielle, Jen, Aiden, and Teresa, with Danielle questioning them about did they set her up. So now she tells Joe all about how Jackie is now trying to vibe out and get close with Teresa. The way Joe was just like, wait, what? Like, come again? Jackie and Teresa? When did this happen? Melissa's like, yeah, I thought I was in the Twilight Zone. I couldn't believe it either. But we all know why that is. It's because they both have a common enemy. They both don't like Margaret. So now Teresa's like, let's be friends. And for all my Teresa fans, you are welcome to watch. But one thing about it though, I will be whacking your girl because we know that it's some BS, this newfound alliance with Jackie Goldschneider. This whole friendship is phony and everybody can see right through it. So now we flip over to Teresa at home and she has Jackie over. Surprise, surprise. So Jackie, the secondhand embarrassment that I had at your ass kissing, I was so nauseous at one point because you just kept going. Jackie was in Teresa's house showing all 32 teeth. Miss Mamas was ecstatic to be there. When Jackie said, I'm just so excited to be hanging out with Teresa, I said, girl, we know. You're not telling us anything that we didn't already know, honey. We see you. We see the thirst dripping from your lips. Jackie in this scene gave the nerd who finally gets picked to hang out with the popular girl. So Jackie and Teresa are in the kitchen making small talk. Adriana comes out to give Jackie a hug, and they point out how their kids are the same age because Adriana's a freshman in high school and Jackie's twins are also freshmen. So they say, oh, we should meet up and link up together with the kids. Now I said, let's just take some baby steps. You guys went from hating each other to now you want to hang out with the kids. So Jackie wants to know if Adriana was a dancer, and Teresa says, oh, she used to dance, but then she stopped and now she plays volleyball. That's why I left the brunch early the other day, because it was her first volleyball game and I didn't want to miss it. And I said, I'm sure that you did leave the brunch early to see your daughter's volleyball game, but I feel like even if there hadn't been a volleyball game, you still would have left that brunch early because Rachel was not letting up. Because again, Teresa, you did look a bit rattled when you left out that brunch with the jewelry in hand. So Jackie says, honestly, Teresa, I wouldn't have blamed you if you had just left that brunch early anyway. And I said, Jackie, if I ever need anybody to blow smoke up my behind, I will call you up immediately because you do such an excellent job. So now Jackie mentions how happy she was that Margaret wasn't there because she was not in the mood to deal with Margaret, and how she has no idea what's going on with Margaret anymore, and how Margaret seems very angry. And now you have Teresa trying to shade, and she says, oh, I was so surprised that Sherlock Holmes missed the brunch. I just said, I mean, Sherlock Holmes? I wish Teresa were a better reader. So here's where I fell out. Teresa says that she loves women who stand in their power and how she always wanted Jackie to defend herself. So I said, let's stop. Let's roll the tapes back. Let the record show that when Jackie joined the show, what was it, season 9, the same time as Jen Aydin, Teresa was very angry at Jackie because Jackie had asked her the question of, well, if you think that wives can control husbands, how come you couldn't control Joe Giudice to prevent you guys from going to jail? She said something to that effect. And Teresa was livid. She thought that Jackie had some big balls to even ask her that kind of question. And we all remember that beef between Teresa and Jackie lasted for quite some time. Because after that, there was the whole analogy situation that Jackie had made about Gia. Teresa was pissed about that, called her a see you next Tuesday. The hate was real deep when it came to Teresa not liking Jackie. And a big part of that was because Jackie originally was not going to kiss Teresa's ass. That's why it's so weird and jarring now to see Jackie do a complete 180 and just kowtow to Teresa. Because when Jackie first came on this show, she would not bow down and kiss the ring. That's why Teresa couldn't stand her. So back to my original point about Teresa liking women who stand in their power. No, she doesn't. If you challenge Teresa in any way, she feels slighted. She's going to hold a grudge. Teresa does not want friends. She wants fans. So let's not tell these lies. Because when Jackie was standing her ground with you, you hated her. The only reason why you want her to stand in her power is because you guys now have the same enemy. So Jackie's just eating it up. She says, I honestly felt like you and I weren't good until about 2 weeks ago. And I'm just like, Jackie, you're in Teresa's house. Let's stop with all the groveling. And if you could have seen how hard I rolled my eyes when Jackie went on to say that she used to be a broken person, but she loves being around Teresa because Teresa is light and fun. I said, Jackie, get off my screen with all this. I said, Jackie Goldschneider, we're not going to sit up here and play these games. Teresa is light and fun. The same woman who was cursing you out, calling you everything but a child of God just 2 seasons ago, now she's just so sweet and light and airy. I understand that you want to move on, put your issues behind you guys, but don't sit up here and tell these lies. So now Jackie brings up how she thought it was so funny when Teresa called Rachel Fuda's husband a parking attendant. And Teresa's trying to play coy, and she says, but isn't he though? Isn't that what he does? I said, Teresa, you know good and damn well he's not a parking attendant. Also, Teresa, the news just broke a few days ago that Louis took out $1 million loan, and there's some money problems between y'all two. I would not be saying anything about anybody's husband being a parking attendant only making $5 an hour. And let the record show that we still don't know what Louis does for a living. And a quick side note, remember in episode 4 when Jen Aydin had her doggy party and Gia was there? Gia revealed that her boyfriend works for Louis. If I were Gia's boyfriend, I would be sending my resume out right now because I have a funny feeling that Louis' business might be going under. That's why I'm so annoyed that they're not getting a reunion, because you have all these articles coming out with Teresa and Louis' alleged financial issues. Then there are the rumors swirling around about why Paulie won't get divorced from his ex-wife and what they actually do for a living. Read up on all that. But I feel like we're definitely being robbed because of all of this juicy tea coming out. You already know that Andy would be pressing all of them about it. So I feel like they're doing us a disservice by not giving them a reunion because we want to get answers on what's actually going on off camera. But Miss Teresa, if I were you, I'd be making sure that Louis does not clean out my accounts versus trying to throw shade at John Fuda and his occupation. And I'm so sick and tired of Teresa acting like she is the toughest woman who's ever lived and that everybody should be afraid of her. Because when Jackie asked her, oh, how did you stay so calm at the brunch when you and Rachel got into it? And Teresa said, well, I know that I can chew her up and spit her out. I'm like, girl, you are not Drita from Mob Wives. Please stop. Teresa, in the grand scheme of things, who are you? So now we jump to a short scene with Rachel Fuda on FaceTime with Margaret. Now, mind you, Margaret's out of town. She's celebrating a friend's 60th birthday in Charleston, South Carolina, but she still wants the tea. So Rachel's telling her all about what happened at the brunch, how her and Teresa got into it, and how she was pressing Teresa about what was the intention behind calling John a drug dealer and trying to weaponize his past from when he was 17 years old. So while she's talking to Margaret, we see John Fuda come out to sit right next to her. And I said, listen, I understand that the husbands play a pretty big part on the show, but we don't need to see the husbands in every single scene with their wives. At the end of the day, the show is called The Real Housewives, not The Real House Husbands of Jersey. We don't mind seeing you guys every now and again, but it doesn't have to be every single scene. I just said, John, you can't let Rachel have a few minutes with Margaret on the phone by herself. We need to see you right there. And I like John Fuda. He seems really cool. I met him at BravoCon. He's very sweet. But I'm like, my God, you need to be in every scene with Rachel? But now Rachel brings up how Teresa tried to shade John, calling him a parking attendant, and Margaret had me screaming. She said, wait, but isn't her husband unemployed, mooching off of her? I said, Margaret, clock it. I said, whack her again, please.
I'm just scoot on over and let you whack him. Get him again. Get him for me.
Again, Teresa, I really hope that you have some money stashed away because something in the milk ain't clean. And I think I told you guys this, but when I was at last year's BravoCon in Vegas, they had 2 separate Jersey panels because the cast just can't stand each other. They can't even be in one panel. But I went to the second Jersey panel with Teresa, Louis, Dolores, Paulie, the Aidins, and Jackie. And one of the fans had everybody screaming. She got up to the mic and she says, Louis, I just want to ask you one thing. In 10 words or less, can you please tell us what do you do for a living? And when I tell you that Louis was stuttering, he could barely answer. He says, well, so I own a company that oversees other companies, and then we track the data. When I tell y'all, the woman says, that's not a sufficient answer. She walks away. The crowd is screaming. Teresa looked pissed. Listen, Louis don't have a job. That's just the long and the short of it. He's over there taking out loans and getting $20 from you. The moral of the story, please vet these men, especially for my ladies who have a good coin. Please vet these men and vet them some more. Get all the background checks, especially when it comes to their finances, okay? It is not a game out here. You have these men out here who, they want a soft life.
No.
So now we jump over to Dolores and Paulie. They're out on a cute lunch date, and that restaurant, I need to go there because the food looked delicious. When that lobster mac and cheese hit the table, you guys already know that my mouth was watering. So anyhow, Dolores is filling him in on Danielle's bougie brunch the other day, and she brings up how she was talking about Frank and Brittany getting engaged and how the conversation turned to when are her and Paulie getting engaged and does she want that? So Dolores plays it off saying, you know, I'm fine. All I really want is some real estate and a big ring. Then she adds that there's really no reason to even bring it up when his divorce still isn't finalized. Then she goes on to add, we're here, but in order to go here, you have to finalize what you're doing. Paulie is already annoyed. So he's like, so do you think that if I get divorced today, I'm just going to propose to you and get on bended knee tomorrow? And I just said, well, sir, when do you plan on doing it? I don't know why you're getting so upset about it. So here's where things really get heated. Dolores says, Paul, it's not about me being upset that we're not engaged, but can you please explain to me what's taking so long to get this divorce, because I am getting annoyed. I was not here for Paulie low-key taunting Dolores because he said, oh, you're annoyed now? And I said, sir, how are you angry that Dolores is angry? You are still legally married. But you see, this is why you don't allow men to play in your face like that. So Dolores says, Paul, don't sit up here and change it up on me. You told me that you'd be getting divorced last year. Paulie was giving a whole bunch of word salad. All of his excuses made no sense. I said, child, he is trying to buy time and try to stall this out because it's clear that he's not trying to get divorced. He goes on to say, well, you have to separate things and I don't want to blame COVID because everybody does that. I said, what does COVID have to do with any of this? Do you plan on getting divorced in this lifetime? Yes or no? Just answer the damn question. And when Dolores brought up how she's used to this because she dealt with this when she was with David, we all know how David wasted her time for 6 years. They were going to move in together, but she didn't want to because they still weren't engaged. And she says, now here I am with Paulie, living with him, and we're still not engaged either because he's still legally married. Now, Dolores, while I do have an ounce of sympathy, at the end of the day, this is also your fault too. Men will only do what you allow. So if I were you, I would cut my losses and leave Paulie right where he's at. If he wants to play these games and not divorce, then I'll go and find somebody else. But I feel like Dolores has a pattern where she's always getting with men who are not emotionally or mentally available. Like these men, for some reason, they can't seem to just commit all the way. There's always some stumbling block. Dolores had me screaming when she said, at this rate, Paulie, you could solve world peace before you get divorced. Now you have Paulie saying it could take up to 3 years. When Dolores said 3 years, I said, Dolores, this is your sign. God is telling you, you need to run. Don't let this man get another year. And 3 years will turn into 6 years. And then 6 years will turn into another 12 years. And then by the time you know it, you'll both be 80 and it'll be like, well, you know what? What's the point now? Dolores, don't allow Paulie to play with you like this. I would cut my losses and I would run. I also did not appreciate how Paulie kept trying to flip it back on her when he said, do you not think that I'm telling the truth? I said, Paulie, you're not the victim here. I wouldn't have even entertained that question. I honestly would have gotten up and left. You're telling me another 3 years? Bye. Oh, and did anybody catch how Dolores said, I don't think that you're not telling the truth? I said, not Dolores trying to give us an Irish accent. Dolores says, look, I'm an easygoing person for the most part, but I do have to admit, this is taking a long time. Then she adds that maybe one day she'll wake up and say that she might have to rethink some things. So Paulie was really pissed about that. He says, well, honestly, Dolores, if you feel like you need to rethink something, I'd rather you do it sooner rather than later. So now Dolores is like, well, damn, you don't have to be so nasty. And he really snaps. He says, I'm not being nasty. You asked me a question and I'm being brutally effing honest. I said, oh no. I said, that would have been the last lunch date that me and Paulie ever had. You're sitting up here still legally married to your ex, and then you're telling me it's going to be an additional 3 years before you guys get a divorce and make it official. And now you're saying that you don't even know if you'd even propose to me soon after you finally get divorced. But now you want to tell me that if I want to rethink things and, you know, be my guest, but just do it now versus later with an attitude, and now you want to curse at me? Shout out to everybody, I have fun.
Shout out to everybody, I have fun.
I gotta be good.
Dolores, if you do come back for season 15, I hope you come back with a new man. I don't want to see Paulie. No, thank you. Next. Now, jumping over to Margaret, we see that she's hosting a charity golf event, and it's called Clubs for a Cause, where it benefits first responders. So we see that she's invited the Gorgas, the Fudas, Dolores and Paulie, and they're going to spend the day passing out her non-alcoholic beverages to the golfers. And we all know that Margaret doesn't drink, and she has a non-alcoholic line out called Soiree. So they'll be passing that out to the golfers all day. Now, I thought it was cute because Margaret had all the ladies dressed in these sexy green golf outfits. I said, come through. Any excuse to wear a sexy outfit, I'm here for it. So Margaret's driving them all around to pass out the drinks to the golfers, and now they take a break. And Melissa brings up her housewarming party. She's like, you guys are all coming, right? They're all like, yeah, girl, wouldn't miss it. Dying to see the house. We'll be there. So now Melissa reveals that she's invited Jackie and Jen Aydin. So I was just thinking, wait, hold up, stop the presses. I know that you and Jen Aydin had your lunch in the last episode. That's great and all. But don't you think it's a bit too soon to have Jen Aydin in your brand new house? And let's not forget that Jen Aydin can't stand Joe Gorga. So I don't think I would have somebody in my house who hated my husband. Now the conversation turns to Danielle's bougie brunch. And Melissa wants to know, how is Rachel feeling after her whole fight with Teresa? So Rachel says, I'm good, I'm just fine. I emptied out the tank. There's nothing left to say. And I said, exactly, because I was really thrown when Dolores said in that last episode, oh, Rachel, if I were you, I'd be nervous, sleep with one eye open because it's going to fester on Teresa's end. She's going to be upset. So I'm glad that Rachel's like, Teresa is not God. She does not have that kind of power over me or anybody else. And I'm sleeping just fine at night. And I'm good. Now, is it just me, but with all the talk that Dolores does about being from Patterson, sometimes she acts like she's afraid of Teresa. Am I the only one who gets that impression? Let me know. But now Dolores interjects and she says, we can argue about petty stuff, but we can't let it drag on. For instance, the way you guys keep talking about Paulie's divorce. Margaret had me screaming. She was like, who's talking about Paulie's divorce? I was just like, yeah, Dolores, who's talking about it? And that was such a weird transition. Like, if you want to change topics, that's fine. But to act like the Rachel and Teresa drama has anything to do with Paulie's divorce, I was just thinking, okay, girl, the math ain't mathin'. I don't understand the correlation, but okay. And it was funny because shout out to my girl Teresa over at the What Else Is Going On podcast. I was on her show on Tuesday and we talked about that. She also thought it was a weird transition. Like, Dolores, where did that come from? So now Dolores brings up how the other day at lunch, Paulie snapped at her and pretty much told her, do you think that if I divorce today, I'll just propose to you tomorrow? And Dolores is like, it's not that I would expect that. And Margaret clocked it again. She said, well, why not? She said, when I divorced Jan, the next week, me and Joe went off to Vegas. He locked it down immediately. I said, I know that's right. Listen, my dad always told me when a man wants you, there are no excuses. So if you're hearing excuses, if you're getting mixed signals, he don't want you all like that. And I hate to burst a few bubbles, but I was taught men are hunters. They go after what they really want. So if he's not going after you with full force, that's not your man, sis. And Dolores, I really want to just say, I don't think that Paulie is it. I think you need to go elsewhere because Paulie dragging his feet is not a good sign, because men don't drag their feet when they know that you're the one. They are scooping you up immediately because they know that another man will grab you up like that and they can't take that chance. So Paulie's actions tell me that Dolores is not it for him because he would have been divorced a long time ago. And Paulie proved my suspicions because when they flipped to the guys playing golf, Joe Gorgas asking, when's the divorce? And Paulie's talking about soon. I said, oh, but you were telling Dolores at lunch that it's going to take another 3 years. So when is soon? I'm so sick and tired of Paulie dancing around in circles about when this divorce is going to happen. It's always soon, someday, one day, maybe 3 years, 10 years, maybe next month. And even Joe said, Paulie's playing around. I don't know what's going on in that big head of his. Now, I was really thrown when Paulie revealed that he wants to go into business with Dolores. I said, come again? So you can't sign divorce papers and marry Dolores, but yet you want to go into business with her. Got it. Dolores, if you go into business with this man, you're a fool. Also, let's talk about this. I'm so sick of these men who claim to be so successful, so rich. They meet these housewives, then the next thing you know, they want to have a joint business with the housewife. It's giving a clout chase. It's giving, let me use your fame to benefit me. Because if you were so successful and so rich and doing so well, you wouldn't need your famous girlfriend's help. That's why I'm a big believer, especially with famous women, rich women. Please vet these men and make sure that they don't need your help in any capacity. But the absolute gall to think that you're going to string Dolores along, but then want to go into business with her. It wouldn't be me. And also, Paulie, when you made that comment about how that's how you want to transition into your future with Dolores, how you guys are building together, I'm like, Paulie, you're a bit too old to be talking about building together. You need to already come assembled. Like, sir, you're not 20s or 30s or even early 40s. You're almost 60. You should already be built up. And I loved how Joe Gorga clocked it. He said, now I've known Dolores since I was 5 years old. Dolores is not trying to get out there and work. She's trying to sit back in her Rolls Royce and have him go to work. I said, exactly, that's how it should be. Like, what is this, sir? Where you expect us to go into business together and you want me to be out in the field? No. And then on top of that, you're still legally married to somebody else and hemming and hawing about when you want to marry me? I don't think, no. Dolores, run. Find a new man. So now we see a parallel scene with both of the Jens, Jen Aydin and Jen Fessler, meeting up for some margaritas and some girl chat. They order this giant margarita it's clear that Jen Fessler is trying to get lit. So they're making small talk. Jen Aydin's asking Jen Fessler how she's doing. Jen Fessler's like, oh, I'm good. Just got my daughter squared away. She's in her last year at college. And we find out that she goes to the same college as Antonia. She's a senior while Antonia is a freshman. They both go to the University of Delaware. So Jen Aydin's like, oh yeah, they both go to the same school. I wouldn't know that though because Melissa blocked me on social media. And I'm like, but Jen, are you surprised? You're out here calling her husband an asshole, out here spreading rumors about Melissa messing around with somebody else, so you really can't be too surprised that you're blocked. But Jen Aydin says, besides that, things between Melissa and I are getting better. It's not spick and span, but we are starting from a clean slate. So Jen Fessler wants to know if Jen Aydin will be at Melissa's housewarming. So Jen Aydin's like, yeah, she actually invited me. Me and Bill will be there. And one thing about it, Jen Fessler is going to always ask the questions that need to be asked. She wants to know, how is Teresa handling Jen Aydin and Melissa's newfound friendship? Now, Jen Aydin was double talking because in one breath she says that Teresa doesn't care at all. She's cool with it because she knows that they're all going to be together on multiple occasions and that Jen Aydin needs to do what's best for her. Then she goes on to say, but I still haven't told her that I'm going to the housewarming and that she knows deep down inside that Teresa would prefer her and Bill not go to the Gorgas housewarming. Now I said, girl, let's be honest. In a situation like this, where the hate between Teresa and Melissa is so deep, it's damn near impossible to stay neutral. You're going to have to pick a side. And we know how Teresa is. If you're not for her, you're against her. So I feel like Jen Aydin is going to create an issue for herself by now trying to be friends with Melissa. Teresa's not going to be happy because for a long time, Jen Aydin has been her biggest defender, her biggest supporter, and her biggest soldier. So to see Jen Aydin now trying to tiptoe over to Melissa, that's not going to end well. So Jen Fessler says, I know, girl, I'm in the same boat as you. As I get friendlier with Teresa, Rachel and Margaret are feeling a type of way. Now, Jen Fessler, let me get you for a minute because sis, Margaret has a right to feel a way. She brought you on this show. You guys were friends for a good 15, 20 years prior to this show. So I would feel like it's a slap in the face if I bring you on, we're good friends, and now you want to cozy up to somebody who can't stand me. So for Jen Fessler to act like, oh girl, I'm in the same boat, all right, Jen, but it doesn't have to be this way. But we all know that Jen Fessler wants to be in with the cool girls. She wants to be on this show for seasons to come. And she feels like, let me go where the bread is buttered. Let me go with the OG of this franchise, and that's Teresa. Remember, Jen Fessler got a full makeover because she wanted to come back. She was at last year's reunion. She said, I got my facelift, I got a rhinoplasty, got on Ozempic, got her boobs done. Miss Mama said, oh no, honey, I want to be camera ready to get back on this show. I didn't do all this for nothing. Again, Jen Fessler, I like you and all, but we're not going to sit up here and act like you're a victim. You're trying to go where the money is and who you think will keep you on this show and make you a full-time cast member. Jen Fessler saying, it's such a bummer that the group is like this. And I said, Miss Girl, you've been watching this show since season 1 like everybody else. You knew what it was when you joined the show. So miss me with all this, oh, it's such a shame that this group is so divided. You knew that. You knew what you were walking into. So now the topic of Danielle's bougie brunch comes up, and Jen Aydin brings up how she can't believe that Danielle asked her and Teresa about did they set her up. So Jen Aydin's like, for the last time, Teresa did not set her up. I didn't set her up. I actually told her not to say anything. So now Jen Aydin brings up the whole topic of Danielle being angry that Lena was at her doggy party and how Lena was talking a lot of stuff about Danielle. Lena had done Danielle a favor. She did her hair for free for this event. And at the event, I guess Lena did not have a pink wristband to get into the VIP section, so they kicked her out. And Danielle didn't even have the decency to say, oh no, let her back in. That's my friend. That's my hairdresser. Danielle just let it happen. So Lena was pissed about that, and of course, she was blasting Danielle at Jen Aydin's doggy birthday party. So Jen Aydin's like, yeah, Danielle kept going on at the bougie brunch about how Lena didn't even deserve to be in the VIP area with us, and I just can't condone that behavior. So Jen Fessler's like, wait, what? Didn't she do her hair for free? Like, that's just so gross. And I felt the same exact way. Danielle, you have no right to be angry at Lena blasting you because that woman opened up her salon for you earlier than expected, did your hair for free. She didn't have to do that. The least you could do is have her be in the VIP with you at the charity event. And also, Danielle, you just got on this show 2 minutes ago. You're C-list, D-list at best. So the audacity for you to think that you're just so famous, like, that's a joke. Lena had every right to talk about you and talk about what happened because that's really messed up. I would have cursed you clean out if I did your hair for free and now I can't be in the VIP section with you. So now Jen Aydin brings up how Teresa and Rachel got into it, but Teresa was surprisingly calm, and how she was more triggered by Danielle asking if she set her up. So here goes Jen Aydin making it seem like Teresa can do no wrong. She says, yeah, when her and Rachel got into it, Teresa said, I never said that John Fuda was a drug dealer currently. That's not what I was saying. But Rachel didn't want to hear it. So now Jen Fessler's like, oh, I'm so glad that Teresa said that, because we all know that that's not what Teresa meant. I'm just like, oh my gosh, y'all know good and damn well that when Teresa yelled that out at Jen Fessler's surprise birthday party in episode 1 about he's the biggest drug dealer in Bergen County, you know that she was implying that this was current. Why can't you guys ever call a spade a spade? I understand that you guys want to be Teresa's friend, you want to be up her ass, but let's be honest. You know that she was trying to hurt his reputation and she was trying to insinuate that it's present day. Now, Jen Fessler makes a joke saying, wait, Jen, what's that expression you always say? Like, don't start none. And here goes Jen Aydin. Don't start none, won't be none. Don't start none, won't be none. And I said, I hope you don't think that you're the one who started that phrase. Also, I don't know if it's just me, but I roll my eyes every single time Jen Aydin puts that black scent on. It drives me up the wall. I can't stand when she does it. Now we see 2 parallel scenes with the Fudas at home and Teresa and Louie at home. And they're all getting ready for their big sit-down conversation. We see that a few days prior, Paulie had called up John Fuda trying to facilitate a talk between them and Teresa and Louie because he's friends with all of them and he wants them all to settle this and get along. So Teresa and Louie are out by their pool stretching, and Teresa says, we're releasing endorphins to keep us calm for today. Louie agrees, and then he adds that it's good that they're meeting up because they can finally end things once and for all. So now Teresa says that her and Louie are always trying to be the bigger people. I said, wait, what? Teresa, this has to be the 10th lie you've told in this episode. Girl, don't do that. We can go down the list. You and Louie are nobody's peacemakers, especially not with the same man who hired a private investigator, Bo Dietl, to get dirt on everybody in the group. Since when are you the bigger people? And again, all my Teresa fans, y'all will not sit up here and gaslight me in the comments. So Teresa says that she's not here for John Fuda demanding an apology. And I said, we know you're not. We know you're pissed about that because you feel like nobody is ever allowed to challenge you and call you out when you're wrong. So Teresa says, we did nothing wrong, and honestly, we deserve an apology from him because he put out a false narrative about you. I said, Teresa, when it comes to Louis' reputation, he brought that on himself. So Teresa says even his ex came forward confirming that she never spoke to Louis. So now Teresa brings up the shade that Rachel threw, saying that she's never done anything after she came out of jail. And she says, I could say things about her, but I choose not to. And how she doesn't want to bring the old Teresa back out. I said, oh my gosh. Once again, Teresa swears that she's the godfather or somebody, because I'm just so sick and tired of her talking like she's just so tough. And Louis loves to talk in riddles as well, because he says, if you bring the old Teresa out, I get it, because I have to feed 2 wolves every day too. I'm like, Louis, shut up. Teresa, I can't stress it enough. If you can, get a post-nup. I don't trust Louis at all. So now we flip over to Rachel and John getting ready for the big sit-down conversation. And John wants to know, what is Rachel thinking? How is she feeling? And Rachel says, honestly, honey, this whole thing is more between you and Teresa than it has to do with me. So what do you think? How are you doing? So John Fuda says, straight up, I want an apology. An apology for calling me a parking attendant and other things. So Rachel says, what really angers me is the fact that she tried to weaponize what you went through when you were 17. She tried to use that against you. So John agrees, and he says that we've heard a lot about Louis. And the thing with Louis is, I think he's a narcissist who really gets off on knowing other people's secrets, and he likes being in control of knowing everybody's dirt. I think that was apparent last season when we found out that he hired Bo Dietl. I think he really does get off on knowing that other people have skeletons in their closet, and he wants to reveal theirs because they know the dirt on him. And then John Fuda goes on to say, if it goes well today, that's great, but I honestly feel like it's going to go left. And as we saw, it went all the way left. So we see the Fudas arrive to the restaurant first. They order a shot of tequila, and I said, baby, the fact that y'all are already starting out with a shot, that lets me know that you're about to be good and lit when this conversation happens. I said, it's already about to be a hot mess. Teresa and Louis show up, and it's really tense, but they do exchange pleasantries. They say hello, and Teresa even thanks them for meeting them today. So John's like, look, that's great and all, but where do we start? So Teresa's like, wait, hold on. Before we do that, you see that bottle right there? Jackie told me about my brother's housewarming party, and since you guys are going, bring that bottle to them, because that's from us. Now, I was just like, wait, is this a sign that there might be some hope for reconciliation between them? Now, will Melissa and Joe accept that bottle? Because I could see them throwing it out. Because just like I don't want somebody who doesn't like me in my home, I also don't want a gift from somebody who hates me in my home either. So now John Fuda points out that one of the main reasons why they're even here today is because of Joe Gorga. He's like, out of respect to your brother, he's a good guy. Teresa wasn't trying to hear any of that. She says, John, I heard that you have tremendous respect for me. Is that so? Child, this felt like a scene out of a movie because the tension was just so thick. Teresa says, look, when I first met you guys, I didn't have a problem with you. And now Rachel cuts in and says, honestly, Teresa, when I joined this group, I really felt like you had no desire to get to know me and be my friend. So Teresa acknowledges Rachel's point of view, and she says, I get it, because sometimes when you're close to one person, it makes it hard to get close to another person. In my head, I'm thinking, okay, let's get past all this. Let's get to the real meat and potatoes of why we're actually here. Because I don't really have the time to go in circles about past drama and this whole friendship triangle with Melissa, Teresa. So let's get to the meat. Teresa now turns to John Fuda and she's like, John, I felt a connection with you. And John was ready. He said, okay, so what changed? You're now calling me a drug dealer. Like, girl, what's tea? what changed between you and I then? I said, ooh, I said, somebody get John Fuda a tagline, please, because he is ready. Now, let me just say this quickly. I like the Fudas a lot, but it's evident that John Fuda loves the spotlight, because I felt like he was prepared to get his little reads in. Nobody was going to stop him from having his moment. So Teresa says, I never called you a drug dealer currently. John was just like, oh, so what did you say? Teresa says, again, I never called you a drug dealer currently. And if you heard that, I'm sorry that you heard that. Now, Teresa, real apologies are just, I'm sorry. Anytime you use the words if and but in an apology, it negates the apology, sis. Saying, well, if I said that, or if you heard that, or if you felt that way, or I'm sorry, but that's not a real apology. John was pressing Teresa. He was not letting up. He says, well, what verb did you use then? So Teresa's defending herself, and she says, I heard from somebody in the past. So now Rachel jumps in to defend her man, and she says, here's the thing for me, Teresa. It's the fact that you put it out there in the universe. So Teresa is defensive. She's like, I didn't put it out there in the universe. It was already out there. And I said, oh, okay, so you want to play dumb about why they're upset. But when you were livid because folks are bringing up Louis' past, and they were saying, well, Teresa, you can't be upset because it's already out there in the blogs. You were angry at anybody who ever brought up anything about Louis. So I think that is really hypocritical of you to say, well, it was already out there about John Fuda. But when folks said the same thing about, well, it was already out there about Louis, then it was a problem. Teresa plays by a different set of rules. What's good for the goose is good for the gander. The same way you did not want people to talk about Louis and his past and his failed businesses and his issues with all his exes, then John Fuda and everybody else's past mistakes shouldn't be talked about either. There's always that one house husband on every franchise who does not mind going back and forth with their wife's cast member, because John Fuda was not here for it. He says, let's redirect this conversation. I'm not hearing the apology that I want to hear. So now Teresa's really pissed, and she's like, I just gave it. Did you not hear it? And I said, again, Teresa, that was not a real apology. Saying, if you heard, I'm sorry, that's not a real apology. An apology is, I'm sorry. I'm sorry that I said that. The end. So John really gets heated, and he says, but you had no right to weaponize what I did when I was 17, which was selling marijuana, by the way, which is now legal. You had no right to use that against me. So now John starts talking about his past. Teresa's not trying to hear it, and he says, girl, you're going to hear it anyway, so sit tight, buckle up, and listen. So John's like, you sat up there and collected information from a criminal who's locked away in prison for manufacturing crystal meth. I said, not crystal meth. I said, my goodness. I said, no wonder she's in jail. So now Teresa's talking about, stop. I didn't want you to say that because that's Jaden's mom. Now, that felt like some low-key shade because Teresa already knew that Rachel adopted Jaden as her son. So I just said, Teresa, that kind of felt shady to say that. Rachel checked that real quick. She said, excuse me, I'm Jaden's mother. Hi, nice to meet you, by the way. I said, I know that's right. Again, John Fuda said he is not the one or the two. He lets Teresa know that she had no idea what she got herself into by getting his ex involved. So he says, you don't know her, and you don't know what Jaden had to go through when this all got hashed back up. So you have Teresa jumping in. She's like, we didn't bring this up. John was like, excuse me, I'm still talking. Now, mind you, Louis has not said one word since they sat down. It's been John battling Teresa from jump. Now, Louis, all the mess that you've been saying about John Fuda in these last few episodes, in one of the episodes, you were like, I can't stand looking at his ugly face. And I think that that's a joke for Louis to call anybody ugly, but that's another story for another day. But anyhow, I said, Louis, the fact that you and your beady eyes are just sitting there watching your wife go back and forth with John Fuda and you're not stepping in, and I'm not even on your side, but like, damn, that's your wife. Like, say something, fight back. This man is a whole lot of things, but the fact that he's just sitting here silent, doing the mute challenge while you're going back and forth with John Fuda, a mess. But I guess Louis said, let me shut my mouth before John Fuda tells all my business. So now we find out more about John Fuda's ex, and he says it was at this very location years ago where she put the wheel on me. Pretty much, she ran him over with the car. He says she was driving 55 miles an hour and she put me into a telephone pole. He says, luckily for me, God was watching out. And I said, yeah, he was, because you could have died. And John Fuda needs to write a book because I want to hear all about his life story and this ex. I mean, she's in jail for crystal meth and ran him over. I want to know what else she's done. So he finishes off by saying, that's who that woman is, and you owe me an apology. Now, John, I could have told you that when it comes to Teresa and apologies, it's just not going to happen. Those two things just don't mesh well. So Teresa feels like that half-assed apology that she gave you at the beginning of this conversation, that's going to be it. So you weren't getting another one. So now Teresa's like, you owe us an apology. So John Fuda's real petty. He says, this ain't tit for tat, hun. There's no apology coming from me. So John Fuda shuts the conversation down. He says, this conversation is over. So now Teresa says, but didn't I apologize to you? And John says it wasn't authentic. So Teresa is still screeching about how they owe them an apology because they put out a false narrative that damaged Louis' business. I said, Teresa, you know good and damn well that Louis and these businesses are a hot mess. Nobody put out any false narrative about him. Louis did that on his own. So now John addresses Louis and he's like, Louis, I agreed to meet up for a conversation, but it's never going to happen like this. Then he goes on to say, here's how I play the rules in my life. When I make a deal, I stick by the deal. I said, come through with these little one-liners. So as they're getting up to leave, Teresa starts screaming that they brought Louis' name up first. John Fuda's like, I don't give a shit. I said, oh, well, damn. So as they're walking out the door, Teresa and Louis are still sitting. And Teresa's like, bye, see you later, John Fugazi. John turns around and he says, just remember, Teresa, you're the poster child for mortgage fraud. I said, oh, I said, my God. And so Teresa's like, you're effing with the wrong girl. So John turns back around and he says, oh yeah, baby, let's do it. I love a good fight. I said, we can see it. John said, come hell or high water, he is getting his licks in and he is going to get his camera time and his check, damn it. And now we see Teresa calling him a drug dealer, and we see a to be continued on our screens, and that's where the episode ends. Child, that last scene had me hollering. It was so good. I feel like every time there's a sit-down conversation in Jersey, chef's kiss. And one thing about John Fuda, I know that people think that he's thirsty, and yes, there is some thirst, but he is determined to give you a good scene. But yeah, this was a very good episode. I enjoyed every minute of it, honey. The drama was just too good. The whole mess with Dolores and Paulie, like, I have to give them their 10s. It was a cute episode. And it really is a shame that we are not getting a reunion, because this season definitely deserves, especially with the tension and the hate in the group. And then you have all the news breaking about Louis and this $1 million loan through an LLC. Child, bravo, reconsider and give us a reunion, please. It doesn't have to be 3 parts. It could be a cute 2-part reunion. And then if you have to, maybe have some people zoom in so that a fight doesn't break out. I don't know. But again, y'all, thank you so much for watching. If you listen to this on the podcast, thank you all for listening. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And I will see you all later. Bye.